Uh, Good morning, friends. Mr. Rajendra Deshpande, Dr. Rajendra Deshpande, the distinguished alumnus of this institution, Dean of Industry Liaison, Professor R.N. Joshi, the organizer, Huawei team, and friends. It's a pleasure for me to inaugurate this visual thinking workshop or visual thinking session of Rajendra Deshpande. In education, visualization plays a lot of role in proper understanding of various subjects, concepts. Otherwise, mathematics, for example, becomes boring. If it is visualized appropriately, then you can actually see the beauty of mathematics, and for that matter, beauty of any other subject also. So if you get yourself involved into and try to apply uh, thinkings like design thinking, if you want to become a good designer, you become aware about design thinking. It changes the mindset. Visual thinking also is required, which also changes the mindset. And therefore, if a small correction in our thinking process is done, uh, so that we actually can improve our performance, individual's performance in this era, which is fast changing, wherein a lot of things are needed. You are supposed to have lots of skills for becoming good in this competitive world. Therefore, I personally feel there are various such minor changes one has to make in the mindset to become a good engineer. With this in mind, and see, the aim is to have creativity. All of the teachers know Bloom's taxonomy, wherein it is expected that fundamental understanding of subjects is at the bottommost level and the creative thinking is at the topmost level. Design is below creative thinking. And friends, it is expected that teachers these days are expected to teach the students so that the last two levels of Bloom's taxonomy are covered. Accordingly, the teaching has to be changed. Accordingly, the examination and evaluation needs to be changed so that it involves the components of design thinking, designs, and creativity, which is needed to be fostered among the fresh graduates, amongst the students in general, so that they are able to become good citizens, good engineers, and creative thinkers. So with this, I take this opportunity to welcome all of you for this session of Dr. Rajendra Deshpande. I welcome all of you for this function on behalf of our institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for a warm welcome. Mr. Deshpande, a human-centric IT leader with a demonstrated history of working in the outsourcing oblique offshoring industry, including working as the CIO of Intelnet Global Services, Teleperformance Digital Integrated Business Service, and Sarco Global Services. He's skilled in service delivery, enterprise architecture, IT strategy, info security, and transformational initiatives. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Rajendra Deshpande to start today's webinar on visual thinking. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Let me just start sharing the screen first. Once I can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Great. Fantastic. So before I start, good morning, everyone. And sir, Joshi sir, First of all, thank you very much for giving such wonderful opportunity to discuss a very interesting and very different subject, which is definitely a need of an hour as of today. So without taking my, and before that, I must say that thank you to Joshi's, R.N. Joshi sir also, and even the Vavi to conduct this and discuss a very different subject, which is a need of an hour today. And in today's presentation, my objective is that how I embraced visual thinking in my career and how it benefited and how this can be truly embedded in your thought process or even while for students, for teachers, for everybody. Okay, that's the whole objective. So without taking much of time, what I would like to do is, 1 minute, just give me a minute. So today's objective is very simple. I'm going to actually tell you two things. Explain the importance of visual thinking. That's the first objective. And how the adoption of this in your life can happen. That's the second most part which I would like to cover. So before I start this, I would like to tell you that I recently came across a book from Dan Rome, and the name of the book is Draw to Win. Interesting book, and he basically mentioned the 90, 90 and 90 rule. And what that rule means is 90% of the data in the world was created in the last 2 years. This is by IBM. But if you look at this diagram, it shows that in the last 5,000 years, how much data is created versus in the last 2 years, you have seen the significant, influx of data across the globe. The second 90, which you mentioned, 90% of the all data which is created today on the internet is visual. And the third 90, which he mentions, is very interesting thing and very, very profound. The 90% of the business people have no idea how to use the visuals. And it is a fact, it's a fact. And with that, I would like to actually tell you to the next thing. If you look at how do we consume the information today, there are three critical channels, we can say. One is the written text, other one is the spoken words, and third one is the effective communication. Written text, is a wonderful, it definitely brings clarity to your thoughts. Moment you start writing, you start getting clarity in terms of what to write, what not to write. But the important point is, if you are not a good writer, your communication skills really, really becomes hard. And at the same time, in today's world, you want somebody to really summarize it. We all have become like a title readers today. Moment you pick up the book, you're not interested in seeing what is the content. You are interested in seeing what is the title. And they probably you look at some of the images and you move on. The second thing is about spoken word. Spoken word also is, I would like to tell you the spoken word. This is a small meter which I have drawn. If your conversation is simple, sharp, and really having substance, then people really become aware and they are interested in listening to you. And as your information, as your conversation becomes, starts getting boring, when your ideas get less and less sharpened or it gets foggy, you start adding a lot of blah, blah, blah. And this is a blah, blah, blah meter which is just created. Point I'm trying to say is, if your attention span and if your ability to, your content is not good, you obviously tend to lose the focus and you don't really like to, get into a details more. So first one we saw is a text where we want to be title readers. Second thing is what we said is the word, which actually makes sense if your content is very good. But then the most important part is, you can really make one minute. The third important thing, which sorry, there was some disturbance. So the third important thing is about visual. And visual actually unites your concept. So the first text, second one is the conversation, and third word actually, divides your thought process. but the images actually unite the thought process, because words generally get into argumentative mode, whereas images actually you try to help or try to bring your new perspective when you are having the conversation. So you will be, you must be wondering that through any other channels versus the visual channel, we tend to consume our bandwidth, or we can say that our brain consumes 75% of your, overall activity when you are consuming the, visuals. What it essentially means is you become more and more engaging if the information is in the visual form. And I must tell you that you should read the book called as Flow. The book clearly shows that you have got 128 bits per second is your memory consumption, the attention span. Of that, 50% information goes in you being aware, and the balance 50% is what you actually consume it. And in that, if your attention span is less, you can imagine what kind of information you are consuming. Vis-a-vis that, if something is there in the visual form, see how engaging it becomes. And that's why it is important for us to actually embrace visual thinking. What visual thinking does actually is, and I mean, and a lot of research has happened. If you go, you will see a multiple research paper on this. I'm just trying to simplify this concept, but the idea behind this is whenever you are having the, listening to something, you actually start forming the images, and your memory becomes very, very active if you are able to visualize what somebody is saying. So visual thinking is nothing but connecting the thoughts to the visuals through the externalization mechanism. What it means is, if you are actually listening to someone, and if you are able to draw that at the same time, or if you actually, even if not at the same time, even if you are able to cognitively connect with the words and the visual, trust me, your ability to retain, ability to share, ability to communicate will go very high. And that's why it is important for us to actually, take the visual thinking, way to go forward. This is, of course, a new language. I will recommend you to go through the TEDx by Sunny Brown. She has actually explained the use of visual thinking, or she calls it the doodling. But if you look at it, it is essentially the visual thinking. She's saying that it helps you in creative problem solving. It basically, helps you in definitely information processing, and it can work from schoolroom to the war room, including boardroom. And trust me, I have used it in my boardroom presentation. I have used it in the meetings. I have used it while doing the workshops, while doing the critical communication, because I wasn't a great writer in terms of communicating using the mail. So I always chose this as a methodology or mechanism to communicate even to my clients also. And obviously the benefits are, you are able to share the information, you are able to summarize it, you are able to learn it faster, you are able to focus better, you are able to engage the team far more effectively, your ability to collaborate, your ability to communicate, your ability to critically think and provide your perspective. The best part is, lot of students and a lot of people who are introvert in the meeting, they start actually sharing their information. If you want to do it once and try to draw the picture and engage the students, you will find out, or engage your team members, you will see there is a profound impact and profound change the way you draw. Even if you draw anything, and you don't have to be an artist while drawing this. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, it helps you to build ideas. It helps you to experiment. It actually helps you to simplify the concepts. It helps you to communicate, and it helps you to connect. And the best part of visuals is, there are no hidden links. There is no underlying message between the two lines. So people actually, what it means is, it brings a lot of transparency when you're trying to put in terms of pictures. That's why people say picture don't lie. And moment you try to put it on picture, people also start relating something which is what is being told in the picture. And that's why it is important. Why it has become important? So I said the first important point is, there is a humongous data which has started coming into the world. That's the first cause. The second thing is, our attention span has significantly reduced, very, very less. If you look at it, dog has got the attention span of 27 seconds. Fish has got the attention span of 9 seconds. And guess what? Humans have got only average span of 5 seconds. Now with this attention span, imagine you want to keep people engaged. If you want to go to your if you want to go and talk about your projects to someone, imagine if you're not able to create a visual hook in the first 5 minutes, even in front of the examiner. This is the for students. If you are actually in the business world, if you are to actually talk about some proposal, if you are not able to hook them in the first 5 minutes or 5 seconds, tell me what's going to happen. You will actually lose the rhythm. You will lose the, great opportunity. That's very important. That's the reason you need to actually practice this. The next important thing is the speed of technology. Look at what has happened in the last decade. The automobile, and if I have to divide this whole thing, you divide this into two sections, prior to internet age and after internet age. If you look at it, automobile took 62 years to reach 50 million customers, and television took 22 years to reach 50 million. After the internet, you look at the speed at which the technology has taken up. Internet took 7 years, PayPal took 5 years, Facebook took 3 years, and Twitter actually got 50 million customers in literally 2 years. So what has happened is net, the speed has become truly, truly important currency now, whether it is in the business world, whether it is in the, even the education world. Speed is of utmost importance. And by the way, speed comes only when you actually embrace the simplicity. So look at this, what has happened. I just tried to explain this using the simple metaphor of, there are two arrows. The top arrow shows the speed of technology, and the bottom arrow shows the adoption of technology in the different world. The industry which is actually keeping pace, you call it as a digital native companies, they are actually taking, or they are going almost in the same level of what the technology speed is going. But those big companies, even the big organization, big colleges, big institutes, those who are not able to keep the pace, you see that bottom arrow. And who is filling that gap? This gap is filled up by the startups. And that's why there is a tremendous, tremendous importance of startup of late, which you have seen in the Indian environment. And the reason is very simple. You just want to be agile. If you want to adopt something new things, and big organizations, because of their structure, because of their legacy, they are not able to keep the pace with technology. And that's the reason the gap between the two is widening. And this gap can be filled only by those who are ready to adopt the digital, who are collaborative, who are curious, who are actually looking for experiential learning, who are keeping the human-centric design in mind, who actually would like to practice agile, lean, and who are design thinkers. So if you look at it, all the traits what I just mentioned is possible if you practice visual thinking in your day-to-day life. And that's why this has become of immense importance. Net, if you change nothing, nothing will change. That's the reason you need to really create a changing room in your mind. And that's the reason you need to change your mindset. So I'm not trying to say that visual thinking is everything. All I'm trying to say is, if you have a domain knowledge, and if you embrace the visual thinking along with the domain knowledge, you will have immense business advantage, as a student, you will have immense advantage. As a teacher, you will have an extremely great advantage in terms of communication, in terms of creating impact. Even for business people, even for startups, they will be able to create great stories around it, because I have seen many startups, in fact, struggle despite having the great idea. And in fact, almost all the technology folks I have seen in the last 20 years, even I have gone through the same thing. It's not that I was an exception. We lack storytelling techniques. We lack creating impact in the given shortest period of time. We spend a lot of time in explaining the background. The crux is you have to get to the point faster, the better. Especially for the software engineers, Agile, Scrum, I mean, the way in which you have to create the software development in the shortest period of time, creating the story building. Lean, of course, if you ask me, Agile is the ability to see or develop the product in the shortest period of time. It's a mindset change. Whereas the Lean focuses on methodology. So one side is mindset, other side is the methodology. And the design thinking actually sits in between. it is actually taking. So if I had to put it very nicely, agile is developing or delivering the product, the best product, using the iterative way. Lean is the methodology to cut the waste. So one is about the best product, another one is about the eliminating the waste. And design thinking is actually finding the best out of the best and keeping the human in the mind. And that's the reason why there is a tremendous focus on keeping the human centric, approach. Whenever even the designers, especially those who are in marketing, they know this stuff very well. So marketing is definitely ahead of others, but rest of the, especially engineers, they lack this kind of adoptions. And they love to speak a lot about technology. They love to speak a lot about the jargons. And the need of an hour is how simply you can communicate to others. That is of immense importance. And visual thinking actually becomes a vehicle for you to communicate your ideas in a more empathetic way. So what I would like to do is, the next presentation what I've got is all about how I embraced in my day-to-day life. You will find lots and lots of examples. So the idea here is to just give you a span, and also I have added a few things, how this will be useful for students also. And then probably we'll have a conversation after this. So what's my digital dream? So I actually adopted visual thinking for two key things. One is, how do I simplify the complex technology processes and explain it to the business team so that they can work together for bringing the transformation. Today, guys, it is very important that we all need to work together. So if technology is working in isolation, they cannot actually create the business value. If the business is working in isolation without taking technology, they will not be able to reap the benefit of technology. So we need to actually connect the dots. We need to get both the sides together. And that is possible only when the technology team is able to clarify the usage or applicability of technology in a very simple word to the business team. So one of my aim is to make sure that how do I simplify the complex concept. The second vision or second, my digital dream is that I'm actually working on a lot of old or wise scriptures, especially on the Upanishads. I want to, and that's my dream. I have already started working on converting the Upanishads into simplified visual form. I feel there is a treasure of information lying there, and it is just our inability not to understand the Sanskrit. We are losing a lot of wisdom, and we are just trying to gather things from what is available around us. And I love that. And that is one thing which I would like to do. So this is and with that, these are the two key purposes, which if you ask me, that's my dream. And that's what, and why I'm in front of you is because of this thing, with the communicating the complex ideas in a simpler manner. So my first example, how I embraced my, this thought in my personal life. So my travel used to be so hectic that I never used to get time for, even doing the lot of exercise. So I said, okay, let me just embrace this by having the walk on daily basis. So what I did, just pair of shoes and started walking. And what I did is I actually created one small notebook. I started capturing how many kilometers I walked every day. And I imagined that I'm doing the virtual visit of temples. So this is a simple diagram where, in a year, I actually visited 22 temples. I walked 2,436 kilometers. And all I did is just walk every day for 45 minutes. Every step matters. I started counting it. And that's the story I created. This is my inner journey. But what happened over a period of time, I actually embraced as a part of my life. Now, even during the lockout, I was able to walk in house. I was able to maintain the diary. I was able to continue this. So one example of visual thinking is, and by the way, when I shared this with a lot of people, they started embracing it. They said, okay, this is a great idea. This is a virtual journey. And in any case, during the COVID, everybody understand what virtual means. By the way, this I did it in 2018, and now it has become part of my life. Another interesting thing, each one has got some or other lacunas. in the organization, and this is a very interesting thing which I would like to share. When we do have the 360-degree view, feedback. When I say 360-degree feedback, you get it from your clients, you get it from your colleagues, you get it from people who are reporting, you are getting it from peers, everybody. And when I got the feedback, I realized that, there are 2 or 3 points which very, while there was a lot of praises which were written, but in 2 or 3 places I found there is a pattern. People are very nicely written. Rajendra, you seems to be slightly, you get anxious and you get very angry. And I said, okay. And I took it very seriously that, obviously this feedback is meant for your own personal. So what I did is, and being an engineer, I created the, formula for anger management. And all I did is, I created the objective way of how to measure the anger. And I converted the anger into the coolness index. So coolness index is equal to 1 minus response divided by trigger. And what it means is, for every trigger, if you are responding, that means, you are really getting angry. You need to figure it out. I said, by the way, I read a lot of books on self, how to reduce the anger. It didn't really work for me not because of that. I felt it is all about getting the band-aid solution. I need to get in the root cause analysis and see why I'm getting angry and why I'm getting angry. All I did is I created the table. I started actually listing. Trust me, I started listing throughout the day how many times I'm getting angry and what is the trigger. Is it because of people? Is it because of process? Is it because of anything else? And over a period of 6 months, I actually found out that I have got a very clear pattern. I used to get mad at few sets of people. I used to get mad at few things which are not happening the way I was thinking. And trust me, I actually changed myself. Am I today a very cool person? The answer is no. But today, absolutely, I know if I get angry, what's the reason for that? So this is a simple chart which helped me to really reduce my anger. So point I'm trying to say is you can create your own methodology to track your own behavior. You can help you to change your hobby, or you can change your behavior, your patterns. And this is a simple way. Another thing which I would like to tell is try to find out something measurable. Just don't try to create something for the sake of showcasing it to someone. Do it for yourself. And trust me, that will change your own thought process, your own mindset. By the way, I shared the complete analysis to my colleagues, to my, even to some of my clients. They loved it. And trust me, if somebody says you feel angry, if somebody gives you report, I can guarantee you will not feel good about it. But this kind of feedback, if you transform and if you share it with the people, I was really appreciated for this, even by my colleagues, by my DRs also for this purpose. So the point is, it brought a lot of transparency and it gave clarity to the people. This is the diagram which I used it during the board, and especially this is to the public, so that's why I can definitely share. This was used at San Francisco during the investor meeting, and we all know how difficult it is for people to explain the concept of cybersecurity, especially. So what I did is I started my cybersecurity presentation telling how different the cybersecurity is. And I said, cybersecurity today is the 5th domain of war after the water, land, air, and space. So you have to really treat it as a war. And that's why you need to really create a very integrated mechanism to defend yourself or protect yourself by taking the controls around process, people, and technology. Here I said, the way water actually deal with any blockages, it finds its own way. Your processes need to be literally agile in terms of identifying. The process should be able to eliminate the hurdles. It should not create the hurdles. And this is the biggest problem in many organizations. By the way, hackers are there for 24/7. So your processes need to be 24/7. So that's the first metaphor I wanted. Second one, the military, the way they are disciplined, the way they are trained, each and every person in the organization need to be aware of what is cybersecurity. It is a responsibility of every individual. Air is omnipresent, and because the whole technology has moved from castle to the cloud, and on top of it, the cloud has enabled the mobility. So your perimeter has literally gone to the human beings. So your technology has created the threat landscape, which is completely omnipresent. And trust me, it got really appreciated well. And in between, I said, you know, at world, whether it is US or whether it is India, the kind of technology controls the government is building today, enterprise also have to deal with the similar level of controls. So you have to move from tick box to the threat management, and you have to move from the border to the body, which is like, you know, earlier you were only working at the network level, but now you have to go up to the human level. So this is a simplified diagram. If somebody has to tell what's the cyber security, I think this is how you need to create the mental model to explain the complex subject without even divulging the underneath technology what you are trying to use. This I by the way run a lot of CIO being my passion. I ran a lot of such for CIOs. During the COVID, I created this for most of the CIOs, what was playing in their mind. So this shows that. But one thing which I would like to bring it to your attention is you need to have a strong EQ. So obviously IQ definitely matters. EQ, and nowadays people are also talking about SQ, which is the sensual quotient. And it's all about empathy. So you definitely need to be much more empathetic today. That's the only way you'll be able to collaborate and work together. So this is a simplified diagram of what's playing in. And when you actually show this to even anybody, they know what are the kind of responsibilities you are carrying, what's the kind of work you are doing, what's kind of pressure you are actually having. And I just kept one blank box there. You also keep some time for your family. This is the watch which I created for, again, CIOs long back, but this is not for CIOs. I think this is for every technology person. If you are in the digital world today, you need to be agile. You need to, when I say agile, you need to really embrace the flexibility and the borderless behavior. You need to be in thick of whatever you are doing. It's like in Kurukshetra. You cannot just say, you can sit at the border and say that, you know, I will just watch the show. No, you have to be doing something what you are doing. You need to take ownership. You need to be change leader. You need to take the digital drive together. You need to have the entrepreneurial skills. So all I did is, this is a simple way to explain the kind of behaviors. By the way, I've used this in my internal meetings without even telling people what they need to do and how they need to do. But this really plays well in your meeting. Even you can use this metaphor of watch and take your concepts and spread it. And you don't have to copy the content. You can actually, this is a mental metaphor of how do you remain awake in the digital world. That's the metaphor I used it. You can use this to create your own metaphor and explain anything to the people or anything to students, or for that matter, when you are discussing a complex concept, you can use similar metaphors, and trust me, you don't have to remember anything. It will basically make you how to think and how to then work on the models. This is again the example when I actually gave I attended the course on cybersecurity in Harvard last year. And obviously there was a case study which was there, a big case study. And I just want to tell you that being a student, I got a fantastic marks, but I will definitely give a credit to this kind of visualization. My paper was full of figures like this. So this was a case study on how will you create a risk mitigation strategy for the case study which was stated there. And I created, obviously I wrote very simple 10 sentences, because picture speaks 1,000 words or 10,000 words now. With the cameras now become so big, basis the megapixel, now you can definitely speak more words. So this is a simple way. So this is for students. So as a student, I actually charted the security strategy, risk mitigation strategy for hypothetical organization. And I drew that what is a vision for security vision for organization, what are the goals they should have. And the arrow, big arrow I showed, the goals actually are mapped with the task, and who is the team which is going to be responsible, and who should be the emergency responsible team, how they need to be working together, what are the kind of success metrics you should have it. I'll tell you one thing. During the conversation, my professor said, Rajendra, I'm going to use a couple of your pictures in my next presentation, or probably I might use it somewhere, but this is one of the best. And that I felt the credit doesn't go to me. I think the credit goes to the way we visualize and we present it. I'm sure most of the people have done and they got the similar mark. But the pleasure I got. Now, if you ask me, even after like 1 year of that, I can rattle everything. I can speak to you. I can actually converse with you on this. I can tell you why I did what I did. I think that's the beauty of visualization. By the way, this is the recent talk by our Prime Minister Modi ji, and he spoke on the new education policy. He said IT plus IT is equal to IT. Indian talent plus Indian technology is going to be Indian transformation. And I'm not going to speak about each and every block, but I want to bring your attention to the rightmost corner where it says that the education is going to bring, the new education is going to support and enable how to create the inquiry-based conversation, how we foster the conversation discussion, how do we make our mind analytical, how do we come together to discover certain things, how do we increase the participation learning. Now you see what I'm trying to tell you is that the new education policy is saying that if you have to connect the industry to the education, human to the humanity, past to the modernization and roots to the world, and the kind of, and it is talking about continuous upskilling and reskilling, and look at the communication and collaboration. Do you think that this is the language? This is certainly making you change your mindset. And it is certainly telling you that, you need to embrace the critical thinking. You will have to have a very different way to learn. You have to have a different way to learn together. And I'm very glad that, new education policy is talking all these things which is truly required, because the speed is the only, essence if you have to really go faster in today's world. Now, how can students use it? I recently attended one of the visual thinking workshop by one of the famous person, Piyush Modi, and then, he's a marketing guy based out of Netherlands, and he showed his resume, and I said, okay, now we will just change it for students and even for experts. So I said, you should have your skill and build map. What it essentially means is, what skills you acquired, just draw it there. What is closer to your heart, put it in the near to the heart. And what is your qualification, put in the right side. How you are actually, your journey in the organization, or for that matter, if you are a professor, for that matter, if you are a student from year 1 to year 2, what you have done, you just write it down. What you have contributed to the community. And guys, all I'm trying to say is, if you take your resume like this and explain, you are no more talking about your project. You are talking about whole integrated approach. You are not only speaking about what kind of skills you have got, but you are indirectly and directly telling your organization what kind of person you are. And you don't know. You might actually, another thing which I want to tell you, most of the time students, I have seen many resumes which says, reading is my hobby, writing is my hobby. Draw the picture of a book in the center and show which book you read. You never know. When you are having a conversation, somebody, your conversation will be, on that book. I personally feel that the skill plays the third role. It is your, first of all, what matters is your integrity. I call it as what you say, what you do, you say, that is the integrity. The second important part is how is your attitude. And the third is a skill. So people don't actually rate you on the skill in the first part. They actually see your integrity. And many times I have seen the resumes, they are full of English. And if you just touch or if you double click on certain things, they just, it is somebody's copy paste. Don't do that. Be original. Be what you are. Doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. If you have read any book, even in the local language, say proudly that I am a follower of this. I like this. People don't want to see you as a, sugar-coated person. They really want to see who you are. And I think that is what will actually, take you to the next level. The another example for students could be, how to talk about your projects. I have seen, by the way, projects, how I have personally done the project. And when I did the project, I remember how pathetic I was. I don't think I did a good job when I was, though I got a good mark. But now when I really self-reflect on how could I have actually presented, I would have done it a far more better job and different job. So this is just one visual which I show it to you, that how can you talk about a project? your problem statement. Put your problem statement on the left side. Literature survey, right from say year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4 to year 5. You just talk about, and guys, idea is not to bring all the papers together. Generally, your professor said, tell me which are the top 5 papers and what is the gap you saw. He's not asking about, he obviously knows that you have studied more than 100 papers, but you obviously focused on the top 5 papers of the recent one, which has actually covered almost all the points. Bring it out there. Show what is the gap, what kind of gaps were left there. Then you say where you were. So after that, you can say that, my problem statement is based on the factual findings and the gaps. The next thing is research gap. You bring it out very clearly in the center, and then you talk about what is the limitation or what's out of scope. And then you say, what is the methodology? I have used it, methodology 1, methodology 2, methodology 3, methodology 4, and what's the outcome? So you are building the bridge, and you are visually showing that, sir, this is my problem statement. These many papers I've studied. This is the gap they actually address. Despite of that, while this shows that, this particular subject is being studied by a lot of scholars from 1990 to 2000, which clearly shows that there's a tremendous momentum, and this is absolutely a needed subject in today's day. And what I'm doing is I have picked up, despite of having to work on this subject, we are seeing this a gap, and I'm working on this gap. The right side shows after finishing what you have achieved. One of the very important question which I've seen most of the professor ask is, what is your contribution? Please be specific. If you are running the project with a set of 4 people or 5 people, make sure that you are addressing what is your contribution. You say what others have contributed and what's your contribution. Team work matters. Don't try to show that I did everything. Nobody will believe that. And in the organization, people look for traits where you have worked together. The next thing, you should show what is the improvement plan, and then what is the future scope. If you actually try to picturize, imagine A0 picture and draw everything. Trust me, your professor will love. I don't know how much mark will get based on your content, but I can guarantee you will create a compelling story. And if you want to try it tomorrow. Show it to your professor. This is what I'm doing. Create your own metaphor. I'm not saying use this template. Create your own template, create your own metaphor. If you are in a metallurgy, do something different. If you are in data mining, you show the gold mine, you show the data mine, show the similarity between the two, show what can happen, what can't happen. It will create an interesting metaphor, an interesting conversation. It will bring different point of view. Point I'm trying to say is, you will steer the conversation. You will not let the professor steer your conversation. And also very proudly show his picture and your picture on the top left. People will rate what you are trying to do. You can actually show your journey in terms of where are you today, where you want to be, you can actually draw the picture. So I'm just sharing some of the templates I actually deliberately created for you guys to see that, how can you embrace in your day-to-day working so that you can be much more visual and much more communicative. If your project is there, you can actually, another template which I've showed, what is your objective, how you are doing it, and then how you want to go live, and then what are your risks. And if the project manager is struggling, show him hanging. Let the people know that he is having struggle. And in the top bridge, you show what you need to achieve. Trust me, it creates a lot of conversation. I actually did it once. I made the project manager hanging, and then the people said, hey, why is he hanging? I said, why is he hanging? Because people are not responding. And he said, tell me what are the things. So what it means is, without actually having the conversation, blame is a lame game. You should actually be able to bring out your problems in a very productive way in front of people. And I feel picture makes a fantastic job when it comes to communicating even the negative messages rightfully. Build your own stories. Like, for example, I have always demonstrated the stories. And I'm not a good communicator in terms of conversation when people comes, when we actually sit at the dinner table, especially when all my foreign clients used to come, I used to struggle to communicate. What I did is, and especially whenever they used to come, they say, okay, tell me something about Mumbai. I created one simple storybook for Mumbai. I said, when the first train started and when the Gateway of India tuk-tuk, they call it as a tuk-tuk, the Ganpati festival, and suddenly this becomes the visual hook. And what I used to do is, at the dinner table, I used to carry this kind of thing and just share this with the people. And it used to create a lot of conversation. Now you see what I've done. It is all about Mumbai. And otherwise people talk about poverty, people talk about a lot of other things. Just bring everything in such a perspective and showcase it to them. So I thought about metro, I spoke about vada pav, I talk about dabbawalas. And moment you speak about dabbawalas, the conversation go to Harvard, conversation go to Six Sigma, conversation, you are able to steer the conversation. So I don't have to speak about what is unpleasant or what I don't know. And that's the way I actually, so point here is, think about your own resume, think about your own achievement, think about your own way to communicate. You can actually showcase your capabilities in this manner. Think about any subject, even industry 1 to industry 4, what happened right from industry 1 to industry 4, you can create extremely, I mean, absolutely phenomenal, stunning story and bring out your perspective and discuss with the people. Another thing, I use it for reading the books, and I love to create a summary of books and share with the people. This is the summary from Digital Playbook by David Roger, interesting book. And I actually drew all the takeaways in the form of, picture. I just would like to bring your attention to only one, the man who is wearing the hat. And he says that, hire people with garage mentality. And this book talks about that. And when I had an opportunity to meet a Google HR team at France, I spent some time and I said, tell me, ma'am, at least tell me 1 or 2 things, what you do. So she said, for our Googliness, we look for people, or we look for students who has got the garage mentality. And that surprised me. I said, what do you mean by garage mentality? And she said, we hire people with garage mentality. If you go and look at the garages, these are the most innovative, creative people. Number one, they create something, whatever scrap and whatever waste they have around them. That's number one. They have an ability to create something out of nothing. That's one. Second thing, they can dismantle and then bring new perspective to the same thing. They are completely unrestricted. They have a capability to use a part of A to part of B. And I think today that's the need of an hour. We need to really get out of our head and think boundaryless. That's the only way we can then actually get more and more creative and more collaborative, or more and more, innovative when it comes to your own areas. And this book is actually an interesting book. If somebody wants to read it, you should definitely, it's a digital transformation playbook, but I'm not going to explain you everything in that. So some more things in the meeting, instead of telling people, how you read, or how you, instead of telling, switch off your mobile phone, switch off your, this is from, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who is from the Ramakrishna Mission. And he actually narrated the story, Zen story. He said how you should not listen. He said, don't listen like a pot which is upside down. Don't listen like a pot which is dirty, means, I know everything. And don't listen like a pot which is leaky. A very interesting metaphor. And moment you show it in the meeting, first you just show it, you will find that people quietly shut down everything. You don't have to rudely tell them, switch off this, be there and be that. This is what I call it as a metaphor. Metaphor, interestingly, a lot of our old wisdom says, what you want to write, don't say. What you want to say, don't write. But the third is most important. What you don't want to write and what you don't want to say, use a metaphor. Visual actually plays important role in creating metaphors and communicating without saying what you want to say. That's the best part of it. In the meeting, I normally use this. I used it many times, and many of my clients have used this. So look at this. This is not a great pictures. I don't think I'm not talking about the art here, but moving to talk about, there are 6 T's which I said. You should have a team which is contributor, action taker. Topics, you should make sure that the topic is sent in advance. You set the expectations. Make sure that you have tool, pin, prepared, everything has to be in advance. Talk less, talk short, talk precise, take pauses. Make sure that, you don't cut somebody else. And important point is, I always say this is what I've learned from the Europeans. Before time is on time. If the meeting is starting at 9 o'clock, that means you are supposed to be in the meeting before 9 so that the meeting can starts at 9 o'clock. We generally call it as IST, which is Indian stretchable time. If it is 9 o'clock, we want to be in the meeting at 9 o'clock. Then meeting start. No, meeting start means you have to be before 9. And last but not the least is make sure that you clearly articulate your outcomes. They are time bound and you have owners. Now this is a simple 60 metaphor of teams. It can be used in your project. So if your students are running the projects, if you are a team of 4 people, make sure that you come together, you discuss it, you actually come out with the conversation, you come out with the takeaways, and then you take it forward. This is again another project. I mean, when I was trying to explain to the people what is digital metamorphosis, again, this is from the LinkedIn, but this diagram shows what is digital, what is digitization, what is digital transformation, what is digitalization, what is digital transformation. Digitization is about converting analog to digital. Digitalization is about operationalizing the digitation process. And digitalization or digital transformation is making sure that people, process, technology is coming together to drive the behaviors and create the new operating model. And it's such a simple diagram. If you share with the clients, then share with the people. Now, what is the takeaway for you? Takeaway is bring your complex subject in this manner and communicate with the people. That will definitely help you. This is one more metaphor. If something is pinching you, if you are having conversation, if you don't like somebody's idea, so here I have just shown you the IT and business. So what I've said here is business has got some problem with IT and IT has got some problem with the business. So what I've done is cleverly use the color of IT to the shoes to the business and color of business hat to the shoes of IT. So you respect each other's hat, but what is pinching each other that you explain. Now, if you just bring it up here, trust me, you can discuss very productively with the team. Now you can use similar pictures, you can use anything else, but bring out the controversial points. What is pinching your shoes? That's the metaphor. And discuss it openly. And trust me, what we generally do in the conversation is, we generally try to show what is pinching, what is actually, how others are creating problem for you. We don't talk about how I am creating problem for others. Moment you create a picture and show that maybe I think, these are the 4 things which is troubling you. And these are the 5 things which is troubling me. Let us discuss and come out with the amicable solution. Trust me, you have one meeting like this, I can guarantee you, I'm not saying that you will solve the 100% problem, but you are becoming empathetic. You are actually wearing each other's hat and wearing each other's shoes to see what's happening. I have drawn this for even, when I have the live sessions also, I draw this. So when you are in the class, so this is for Atal Innovation, I used it and I become friend of many people post that. But the point I'm trying to say is, even if you are listening to some webinar, if you are listening to any podcast or listening to any TEDx, you can actually create the visual basis your understanding, because that is what will help you to do the takeaways. This is a book by, again, David Moschella. If you get a chance, you should read this book, Seeing Digital. And he has very clearly explained that in today's world, every person needs to have 2 skills, minimum 2 skills. He says, whosoever is the business person, he has to have an IT skill. And the people who have got double dip knowledge only will survive. He says, D is for digital. That's a job requirement. Whether you are IT, non-IT, whether you are from metallurgy, you are from the electrical, whether you are from any other non-IT stream, you have to possess the digital skill. And I think the COVID has made it very crystal clear to everybody. You have to move from your I to we mentality. And that is what made a collaboration. People generally have a tendency to say, I did it. Now that I has to be literally dropped. Then what it says is go deep into your field. Make sure that, to be innovative, start doing the pilots, experiment. And if you really want to gain knowledge, train others. Keep on adopting the new technologies and learn. That's the definition of digital. This is the digital definition I created, but I use the concept of his double dip and I then brought this whole thing together. And what he has very clearly said is, if you are just the business person or if you're just the IT person, the likelihood of your job getting automated is very high. So at both the sides, I have shown automation risk. So if you really want to exist and be relevant, I think what it means is you need to have double dip, or duels, what's called as the skills. How do I do this? So many people ask the question. So this is basis my past experience. I thought I should add it. So this is my learning process. Especially when I learn it, I use this 5R methodology. And obviously I maintain my yearly goal book of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So one of the objective is obviously to communicate or spread the awareness of visual thinking. But whenever I adopt, or when you see these pictures, this is basis this 5R methodology. So first of all, R is for reason why I'm doing this. Then the next thing what I do is I actually read, and everybody read that. This is the process which most of the people follow. What I do differently is I actually create a mind map when I'm reading it. Once I do the mind map, I clearly reflect on that mind map, trying to understand what resonates with me, what doesn't resonate with me. And when I say learning, there are two ways. Okay, if you're learning it, it is for taking it away, or if it is for your own implementation. So it is not about gathering the information. It is about what are the actions you are going to drive from that thing what you learned. So what I do is, once I resonate, what resonates to me, I sometimes have a discussion with the colleagues or with the industry peer or somebody who is knowledgeable in that area. Once it is clear to me, then I actually create a big picture. And that's where I actually bring the metaphorical conversation. And then obviously all the actions, I make it as a part of my day-to-day activity. That's how the 5 learning process works. And last thing which I want to tell you is that, don't present your powerful ideas into the ready-made templates. Templates actually doesn't help you. You got to be visual, you got to be original. And with that, I would like to stop and take the questions. I hope this was useful.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful presentation. I request you to come up with your video.
Okay.
We'll be happy to see you while answering the questions. We have 8 questions over here by the audience.
1 minute. Let me just see why the video is not turning up.
So I'll just give you permission from. Great.
Okay.
Right. So we'll just start the Q&A session. Starts from a question by Priyanka. Good morning, sir. What do you think about the connection between communication? What do you think about the connection between communication with stranger and visual thinking? I mean, talking to strangers does affect our visual thinking. So this is between the communication with a stranger and how do you relate it?
So, the interesting part is, I think in the childhood, somehow we are taught how to keep ourselves from stranger. That's what has happened with us. And today, the need of an hour is to have a conversation with a stranger. And I personally feel, if you are really empathetic and if you know what's happening, the visual truly creates a very profound impact while initiating the conversation with anyone. Because it is just not about, you are not having a conversation even with a stranger, but you are having conversation in the meeting and your first time meeting. For me, what helped me is when I went to Colombia, I had no clue the kind of conversation, the kind of, culture and everything. All I did is first day when I went, I had an opportunity to go and meet many people. And what I did is I actually drew the complete, what I saw on the street. And next day when I had a conversation, I kept the full page with, half the page with what I saw in Colombia and what I'm going to cover. Trust me, nobody in the meeting was known to me, but I just opened up the conversation. I hope that helps them.
Right, sir. There's a question from Meenakshi. It got 4 likes also. As we all know that visual thinking is too much important for learning anything easily for a long time. How can I enhance my visual thinking? So basically, there were 2-3 questions during registration also. People want to know how do we practice it?
So visual thinking. So let me tell you one thing. There are a lot of courses which are available for visual thinking. You can take my ID and I can tell you. Number one, first of all, in US, unfortunately in India, I haven't seen much of courses, but this is especially in the Europe, I have seen very profound. I have seen many US colleges, US schools using it. European, especially Netherlands and Switzerland and all this, I've seen people really using it to the T. I actually had an opportunity to talk to many teachers, especially in US, many professors, and I actually happened to meet many of them. So the point is, there are many visual courses which are available, and it's a very structured, there are very structured ways. And if you really want to go, just go and look at Doug Neal. He's a visual thinker, and you will get to know his classes. I think he just charges some $50, $50 to $60, and then he has got the courses right from basic visual learning to the digital sketching and digital what I do. I mean, that's exactly what. So while I learned it without going through the classes, but I know there are classes available to undertake this kind of skill development also. And basically, you have to develop your own vocabulary, and it is not about iconology. It is not about drawing the icons. It is about drawing the humans and connecting the icons with the emotions. So if you are able to bring these two things together, your metaphors, your mental models, your ability to think will be much more profound.
Right. So the next question is by Anusha. How will you link design thinking to visual thinking?
So design thinking is a whole brain approach. Design thinking is actually, if you ask me, design thinking is a combination of art and science to create a human-centric design. And in that, if you see what works, the first thing in the design thinking is you have to actually deal with human-centric design. You literally have to sit next to the customer and understand how customer is doing what he's doing. So when you do this, you have to observe it and you have to draw it. So visual thinking actually is, if I had to tell you, design thinking is the way to operationalize it, and visual thinking is the grammar for it, or it's literally the the core of it.
Right, sir. So Rahul is asking like which tool you use to create all these sketches. So any more prescription for tools?
So I used to. So first of all, I started my journey. So initially, if you really want to try out, as I said, you can take the email ID from college, and I will definitely help you. Those who really want to pursue it seriously. But and there are a lot of students who have already. I have already told. I mean, I have taken the master classes for CIOs for many of my colleagues, even in my own college. I mean, my school. In my own company also. But the tool, I use two tools. So the first thing is, don't get into the tools first. First, use a cheap quality paper, start scribbling it, because what matters is your practice. Okay, the more you practice, it will become instinctive for you to embrace it and use it on in the day-to-day life. I use two tools. Because I use iPad, I use paper as a tool, and the second tool which I use is the Procreate. These are the two tools I use, but paper is more than sufficient. If you start with the paper as the paper as a tool in the on the iPad, and that actually suffices all the purpose. So whatever you have just now seen is using that paper I have drawn.
Right. So there's a question by Hanmant. How can we adopt this approach in our everyday life, and can you suggest some books to improve our skills?
So there is a book called as Visual Thinking by Wilman Brand. It's a wonderful book. If you want to, I think everybody should buy that book. By the way, it is not available in the digital form. And I met the author also. She's a wonderful lady, great designer, great visual thinker. And Visual Thinking by Wilman Brand, if you just go, even you will find some of the videos also, basic video skills which she has actually taught, how to draw simple human beings. Actually, today I wanted to I want to definitely take the workshop, but obviously I was not equipped to get everything sorted. Otherwise, we all would have drawn it together. But that's the way it is. So it is about really practicing it on day-to-day basis. So my suggestion is, even if, like, for example, all my books are full of only visuals, I don't write anything. I only draw. So my only recommendation to you is, from today onward, first thing is drop your ruled notebooks and go for a plain notebook, and just set up pen. And whenever you are in the class, you start drawing it, trust me, you will start building your capabilities soon.
Right, right. So Ravindra is wishing you happy Teachers Day, and is also like followed by a question like this: visual thinking is a phenomenal skill you have demonstrated. Indians have historically proven to having good teachers. How about you spearheading this skill, imparting to the benefit of the entire country under Skill India initiative, maybe under the aegis of our college itself?
So I will be more than happy. Those who are calling me, I'm actually, so I have so far presented to do more than on 20 webinars, and I have got overwhelming response across different industries, different streams, including the education community. I'm actually in touch with Atal Innovation also. So for the mentor of change, my plan is to actually present it. I mean, obviously, I've expressed my desire, but more than that, in the industry, literally, I get invitation every alternate day to have the conversation with the team and explain them how this can be embraced.
Right, sir. So we are left with only one question by Smita now. So I'm a journalist and working in IT industry since 20 years. Is it possible to start in this visual thinking direction and get going for future career in this path?
Absolutely yes, Smita. Absolutely yes. And I think, you know what, if you just do one thing, if you are doing the journalism, that means you are already connected to the external community far more better, deeper, and larger than anybody else. You just draw a few pictures. By the way, in the last week, one of the professor from Delhi, he reached out to me, and he sent out a message to me saying that, you know, I just love. So I taught him actually how to draw it, and he himself implemented in his article, and he said the kind of engagement it created was phenomenal. So answer is yes.
Right, sir. So thank you so much for answering all the questions of our attendees. I would like to invite Yashwant sir to please come once again and for word of thanks. We don't. It seems we lost Ravinder sir in between, so he's not there in the panel right now. Yashwant sir, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, Rajendra. It was an excellent speech, topic, presentation, whatever you call it as. And I am very much impressed. This is very important topic for all the students, faculty, in fact, everybody. And it has to be done with the passion that what you're doing. So thank you very much. And we would definitely love to hear more sessions. I'm all the time worried and tell students also that we have 3,000 students and only 65, 75 students attended it, which is actually I mean, it's a pinching point for me all the time. I would have expected more than 2,000 students at least, so that everybody gets motivated by such speeches, you know. So thank you very much, Rajendra. It was
Thank you,
excellent.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Third
much.
speech that I'm hearing, and I'm actually getting to know you better. Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
also take this opportunity to thank some of the SGGS past students as well as the current students, specifically Smita Kelkar, DC Chhatre, and others who are part of this. And it was excellent presentation. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, Huawei team, for organizing this webinar on behalf of our institute. Thank you very much.
Right, sir. So thank you so much. So with your permission, I would like to conclude this webinar now.
Yes, thank you.
Right, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
Thank. Right. Thank you, everyone. You'll be redirected to a feedback link as soon as you close this session. Please help us improve with this webinar. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you, everybody.